Okay, StarCraft fans, we are back with a round 4 replay. This time in the bottom left corner, playing with the yellow Terran pieces, it's Haymaker. And his opponent spawning in the top right, playing with the blue Zerg pieces, it's Pyrobow. So let's get the names up here, get the production tab going on. Really standard opening here. Drone Overlord from the Zerg player and an SCV coming down for the Terran, looking for that supply depot that comes straight down. This is round 4, so we're kind of expecting some good solid early game play. Not too much aggression, I don't think, will be here in the early game. Zerg has got a few options. It can go for a very quick gas and a very quick pull, which Pyrobow is definitely going for here. I like this, a little bit of cheese. If you go for this early pull and this early gas, you can go really quickly into speedlings, or if you wanted to, you could go straight into roaches and ravengers, and that can really hurt a Terran because you can deny their expand and supply block them in most cases. Haymaker's got really standard 2 gas, 1 barracks, 1 depot, and he's chasing away this drone. I'm not sure why the drone scout was sent out by Pyrobow here, and I don't think it's really needed. As a Zerg player, you don't tend to need to scout with a drone, because especially if you're going for a very early spawning pool, you can get lings up a lot faster than any aggression can kind of get towards your base. So I'd expect to see in this production tab, there you go, 2 lings. So you use these 2 lings to scout instead of the drone. In ZVZ, slightly different. I think you can definitely go for a drone scout in ZVZ. Because your opponent could of course go 14 pool and you wouldn't know if you don't send a drone scout. Haymaker plucking down a second gas here, putting 1 worker in there, 2 worker in the other gas. Not sure about the decision. I don't think he's really got enough stuff to really be investing in this double gas mining here. He's not saturated in his main base yet, so I'd like to see a couple more SCVs come out before he went for that second gas. Yeah, I think that's a full wall. That might be a gap in between here, the barrack and the supply depot here. Not quite sure, I don't play a lot of Terrans, so we have got an orbital morphed in, and it's got energy, and it is dropping this mule, so that means we're going to see the income tab for Haymaker go quite in his favour as soon as that mule starts returning those minerals. There we go. And I'd like to see the worker production here, because the Terran has 20 SCVs now, and 17 instead of 17 for the Zerg. There's no Queen Inject coming down. That's going to really affect Pyrobow's lava supply. However, there are 4 idle lava here, so whether he's got himself a bit supply blocked, I think he might have done there. Means he is now behind in the worker count, but he is ahead in army supply. The only point of the there's the SCV scout. He sees these lings coming across the map. I wonder if Haymaker is going to react here. He does only have a single marine. He does have one coming out, an extra one coming out now, but he does have this factory finish. There's definitely a gap in between this barrack and supply depot now. So these lings, if they wanted to, could probably run straight past these marines, maybe even get a full surround. They have got a surround. They've got 1 marine, 2 marine gone down. They're going to get this SCV as well. I'd be tempted. You see this command center that's finished up. You want to try and get this SCV. Go on, chase it. He's assuming there's a full wall. He's going for this command center here. I don't think that's a good decision, because actually it gives your Terran player time to get some units out to try and defend against this. You haven't got lings in production. You're going drones, so I suppose you're not going all in with this. But if you just sent your lings up here, you find there's a gap, and you, instead of 9 drones, you could have 18 lings coming out in a few seconds time, and that would absolutely decimate the Terran player. He's going to get a couple more SCV kills, and ling speed just finishes up now, so looks like he's going to go for the extra marine there. Doesn't quite get him. Marine survives with 5 HP. That's unfortunate there. If we look at the supply tabs now, worker count has been evened up by Pyrobow after going for that early aggression, and the army supply is also even with these queens here. Yeah, so what's your follow-up, Pyrobow? What's your follow-up after this nice early game ling aggression? Well, he's going into layer, which means he could possibly be going into roaches. Haymaker, what are you doing? You're making workers still. You've got your main base saturated on the minerals. You're going for +1 weapons and stim research. You haven't got a starport. I'd like to see you place a starport here. Maybe get a reactor on one of these barracks finished, and then switch out, have a starport building at the same time. and switch over the starport when the reactor finishes, because then you could have a couple of medivacs out. By the time you've got about 16 marines and a couple more orders, you can fly them across the map, drop them into your opponent's base and cause some damage. We don't actually see that, we just see this weird 2-1 gas mining going on. Not sure if this is a mistake. We've got oversaturation now in the main base. We do finally see that starport coming down, so maybe we are going to see this drop play come out once the Terran player's got a few more army units. Does have 4 marines training at the same time as 1 marauder. I like that decision quite a lot. He's got the income to support it. He's actually flooding a few resources as well, which is alright. You could maybe have a siege tank coming in here, maybe. And the Zerg player, on the other hand, has gone for his drone count up to 31, and now he's making just army of 12 lings popping out here. And let's have a look at what that does to the army supply. Puts it in a 2-to-1 favour for the Zerg, including a couple of these roaches. So he's got about 5 roaches, and he is sending them across the map here to see what damage he can do. If he makes sure that these roaches catch up with the speedlings, because the speedlings are much faster, I think he can really cause some damage here. We are going to see a lot of marines come out and an extra marauder before these lings and roaches come across the map. But the Zerg has decided he's going to finish +1 carapace and go for a timing push with the lings and roaches. So we see +1 carapace just about to finish up here with his army across the other side of the map. I like this decision to morph in a couple of a Ravager. I'd like to see a couple more maybe, considering you've got a couple of roaches on the way. 1 Ravager is nice, but 4 are better. And the longer you sit here and wait for your upgrades, I mean, he's now gone into +1 after seeing his carapace upgrade done. +1 melee is going to benefit the lings, but you're kind of progressing out of lings and into Roach Ravager now, so maybe +1 missile would have been a better decision. I would have definitely liked to have seen this army attack when +1 carapace came up though, because this Terran army was just kind of sat here. It was a bit vulnerable, but now it's got reacted marines. He's got 2 Haymaker's got on 2 extra barracks to spend his money. I think this Terran army can easily see off this Zerg force, and I think that's going to be reflected in the army supply. Yep, Terran just about to get ahead now after getting the extra barracks, producing some marines. He's making sure that he's not going to get supply blocked here again, because he has got himself supply blocked this time by building a load of extra supply depots. And the Zerg's pushing into this. I think as soon as you see this, you're running. And the Terran player, oh, actually, I say this, and the Zerg's got a very nice surround here with the lings on the marines, and he's got that siege tank. The upgrades for the Terran player not quite finished up, and the Zerg has cleared up all of the Terran army, and that means that the army supply tab is going to be dramatically in favour of the Zerg player here, who's going to try and go for some worker kills, completely ignoring this marine. He's got +1 carapace, so he knows the marines aren't going to do that much damage to him. Knows the marauders will do absolute work to the roach though, and he gets that SCV here. A siege tank probably maybe needs to be sieged up here, maybe at the back. Not left at the front here, vulnerable to lings that could be running by. You don't have any information, Haymaker, on your opponent, so you don't know if there are 24 lings coming across the map, which potentially there could be. At this point in time, the blue Zerg player has not really capitalised on his advantage. He's got 3 lava left idle here, 3 lava left idle here. I mean, that's what, 12 lings or 6 roaches? Against this small army here, you could have definitely killed your opponent there. But instead you just got a few worker kills for it and delayed the Terran just a little bit more. Haymaker has gone for that 3rd base. He's got this 3rd base on the low ground. So idle SCV probably wants to be mining these blue resources soon. Zerg player, you're flooding 2,000 resources. When you're flooding resources like this as a Zerg player, you need another hatchery. You don't want the double gas. Well, you probably want these gases saturated at this point, really. You want to have 2 base saturation. Yeah, when you're flooding that many resources as a Zerg player, you probably want to move on to getting a 3rd hatch so that you can spend it on these idle lava and turn them into army units, or workers if you're choosing to go for a little bit more macro play. But yeah, you're flooding 300 gas, 3,000 minerals nearly, and you're only building a spire. You've got idle lava sat here. You're building 1 drone, so you are definitely looking at your lava. You're now building 6 overlords because you're supply blocked. So if you just stayed on top of your macro a bit there, Pyrobow, while you were doing that aggression, I think you probably would have have enough to see this off quite easily. But Unfortunately for Pyrobow, Haymaker has just been spamming out that production, getting that army, throwing a scan down now, I'm not sure where that was, on the natural base of the Zerg here. Pyrobow just now taking this third. It's very late, especially in comparison to Haymaker's third, that is already half saturated with an extra gas. And I'm not sure about the Zerg's position at this point. I think he's not going to have enough to see off this Terran army. If Haymaker's smart, he's going to siege up this tank on the high ground here. Siege up this tank here. So you'll have the tanks here, here and here, sort of a triangle formation. Move the Marine Marauder into here, bait the Zerg down, pull back, have the siege tanks fire on it. Instead, he's just moving in with the siege tanks and sieging them up on the low ground, which I think is a bad decision because he instantly loses one siege tank, but the other two have already sieged up. Does lose another one. The Zerg player here cleaning up what is really important to clean up, the siege tanks, but unfortunately the Terran player just has too much for the Zerg to hold off here, and at this point it is GG. There is a muta switch going down, I like that, but it's just too late, and you probably needed this third base saturated with all of your gas mining in your expand as well as your natural and this third base. Haymaker, you know you've just killed your opponent's army. Let's get moving into your opponent's natural, get some damage done, because you've just encountered 20 lings. You have easily cleared those up, and you are going to take down your opponent's expand, and there's the GG from Pyrobow. Not quite leaving the game yet, just sort of watching his hatchery die, as he knows he can't produce anything to stop Haymaker at this point. GG, nice first game.